Thank you all for coming. This webinar is Expanding Undergraduate Research, Identifying Federal Funding to Support Student Involvement. My name is Kimberly Sierra Cajas, and I am the Director of Undergraduate Research and Inquiry with the Office of Societal Impact in RI. I also lead the Undergraduate Research and Inquiry Collaborative with the Office of Societal Impact and Student Engagement and Career Development. So thank you again for coming. We wanted to host this webinar to encourage faculty to apply for undergraduate research grants. This is one way of expanding access to undergraduate research opportunities. Through various studies, undergraduate research has been shown to increase retention for undergraduate students, and it builds interest in their fields. It also opens up career opportunities. So thank you very much for joining. I'm going to go to have the next slide advanced, and we're going to give you a little overview of the agenda for today. So we'll have a welcome by Dr. Betsy Cantwell, and we'll have a couple of faculty panelists, a couple student testimonies to highlight the impact of undergraduate research, provide some motivation to apply for these grants, and we'll discuss federal funding opportunities, and then also resources that we're providing to support proposal development and program implementation. So next slide. And now I'd like to welcome Dr. Betsy Cantwell, who will welcome us for this presentation. Thank you.
Thanks, Kimberly. For those of you that don't know me, I think most of you do, but I'm Betsy Cantwell. I'm the Senior Vice President for Research and Innovation here at the university, which means lots of things, but one of them is that I have both a passion and a mandate to ensure that the research intensity that we deliver out into the world becomes part and parcel of what our undergraduates experience when they come to this university. That's not just because research is awesome, which it is, but the process of research is an amazing precursor to almost any job that our students are going to get. We know we're things like the top producer of Fulbright scholars in the US. Our graduates go to major corporations really around the country. We have some programs, and some you'll hear about, associated with climate change or planetary defense. These are research programs that have a high density, if you will, of undergraduates participating, but we have more that we can do and more that we should do. And I would argue that there's two pieces to that. One piece is, what service can we provide to our students so they have these experiences, meaning getting faculty involved and developing those capacities. The other is, how do we support faculty? And I think that's a lot of what this discussion is about, is getting the funding and the actual support in that funding so that it's not purely a labor of love, if you will, or deep, deep commitment to undergraduates to be able to involve them in your research. You're going to hear today from Dr. Allison Huff and Dr. Michael Johnson, both of whom are already doing an enormous amount to support undergraduate research in their labs. But I know for both of them early on, it was a labor of love. And again, I think we all need to come to this like we must do more, and we must figure out how to support each other and our faculty in delivering these capabilities. So there are funding opportunities. Turns out this is very timely as far as federal research is concerned. You know, I've said since I got here, I've been here 3 years, that my goal is that you don't graduate with any undergraduate degree from the University of Arizona without some component of experiential learning. And I hope that at least 50% of that is research related, because this is what we do. So, so you'll see a lot, you know, RDS works in my organization. These are folks that are here to really support you. And I will hang out and listen to some of this. This is yet another labor of love, so I can't tell you how much we appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for taking your time out, for your interest, for your ability and willingness to help us move this whole idea into a much larger piece of what we do at the University of Arizona. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Betsy, for that extraordinary welcome. We really appreciate your time. So now I'm going to introduce the faculty panelists, and they are going to take about 5 minutes each just to give a brief overview of some tips around successful proposal development based on their experience. Also lessons learned, any surprises that came about, challenges, and then of course the rewards. So first we'll have Dr. Michael Johnson, who's an associate professor in immunobiology. And now we'll have Dr. Allison Huff, who's an assistant professor in family and community medicine on the research scholar track. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Michael Johnson. Go ahead, next slide, please.
Hello, everyone. So I, in 2020, started the National Summer Undergraduate Research Project. And the reason this program was, as Dr. Cantwell said, a labor of love, how many of these particular programs start. So essentially what I realized was that people were missing out on undergraduate summer research opportunities. And the majority of those, a lot of these summer programs really help Black and Brown people. So they were going to be the ones being taken out of the pool for applying to the next series of jobs or graduate programs. And, I thought that we could do something about that. So if you go to the next slide, I'll tell you exactly how we got that started. So a few emails in kind of early June to Dr. David Baltris, who's a PI here, and then also Jennifer Gardy, who works for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And we said, well, these people are missing out on opportunities. Is there a way we can kind of gamify this? How can we essentially offer summer research programs to undergraduates, but in a virtual capacity? And I think one of the things that we really need to consider here is, what is that undergraduate research program supposed to do? In my view, it's to essentially allow somebody to develop a hypothesis and test that. And we were able to do that virtually. So in 11 days, we put together this summer research program that ended up serving 249 undergraduates for that particular summer, and we paired them to over 170 mentors worldwide. And then the spotlight was on, saying, okay, well, now you have to, how can you do this again for the next year? And that's how, you start thinking about proposal development. You start thinking about who your partners are, who can help you. And I actually reached out to Jennifer Fields, and she was able to kind of help us with some of the administrative costs, because doing that alone as a person who's going up for tenure, again, I'll mention the labor of love label there. But what ends up happening is, when you have these labor of love things that meet a niche, they do have ways of snowballing into getting other funding. So I actually tried to apply for a career award, with this being my broader impact. And the major reason why I applied for the career award was so I could actually get some funding for this, for the administrative costs. I mean, yes, I wanted the scientific, I had a scientific idea as well, but it wasn't as developed as it should have been. But they loved the broader impact. I ended up going to the program officer. They kept transferring me around and say, okay, you need to talk to the NSF program officer for in bio, for who does some of these REU programs. So in talking to her, I ended up getting what's known as a RAPID, which is kind of like some discretionary funds that they're able to give you. And what that allowed me to do is now fund these particular undergraduates. And it all came from, again, these two emails that, that I sent in early June in 2020. Essentially, it became this program where, we got this RAPID, and I had more students that I could actually I had more mentors that I could actually pair to based on the finances that I had. So they actually came back and gave me an additional pot of money to that particular RAPID. And if you want to know how to write that, I can definitely tell you. It takes a lot of conversation with your program officer, and I guess an idea that they find appealing. But that was supposed to be a setup for getting a major REU, which is a 3-year award through the university, through the NSF. And so now we applied for that, and in something that I'd never heard of before, the program officer came back to me and said, there's a problem with your budget. You need to add more money to it. And I said, yes, ma'am, I'll definitely do that. So, I think that with these particular programs, we've been able to serve, with this program, we've been able to serve over 350 undergraduates. We've taken them to national meetings. We recently came back from the annual biomedical conference for minoritized scientists, where we had some of our students win an award. We actually took 18 students to that meeting. It was kind of an insane endeavor. I'd never really taken that many students to a meeting like that. But it was giving them experiences. And again, this is all virtual. So I think that, when we're considering the type of opportunities that we can give undergraduates, there's still a lot that they can do at their computers that they can, and still be able to help out and still be able to do things in the research environment. And then again, one of the benefits that actually ends up coming from that is when you have these mentors actually drive these particular projects here. But so now we're a 3-year funded REU. And what's very interesting about that is by having that REU, it's actually opened up funding for other post-bacs. It's opened up funding for more administrative costs for my laboratory to help me hire another person to help me do laboratory work. So, again, what started with a labor of love is actually now starting to really be helpful to the bottom line of my laboratory, not just with the science that's being done, but also at various levels of study in my laboratory. So I'll stop there. You can see some of the things that we use to advertise on the bottom, the website and our Twitter page as well, which were also very helpful to get the word out to people. So thank you for your attention, and I can answer questions in the question answering period.
Thank you so much, Michael. All right, now I'm going to turn it over to Allison Huff.
I wanted to highlight a few of the programs that I am either the PI on or that I'm the director for. And the reason I wanted to highlight these is because they're not all your typical NSF REU. We have Frontera, which is focusing research on border area. Blazer, which is Border Latino and American Indian Summer Exposure to Research. Those are 2 programs that are funded through AZ-AHEC. And so that's both federal and state money. And they are run out of the Office of Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion in Health Sciences. And over here on the right is the IOUNA, which is the Integrated Optics for Undergraduate Native American REU. And that's had multiple cycles. The 2 that I mentioned previously also have had multiple cycles. And finally, I am the PI also on the CQN PIMA Summer Research Experience, which is out of an IUS grant, an HSI IUS grant, Center for Quantum Networks, PIMA Community College Summer Research Experience focuses on trying to give opportunities of summer research experiences to community college students across the various partner institutes with the Center for Quantum Networks. And so I took a little bit of a different approach than the previous panelist in trying to kind of focus on what were some of the things that went into developing these ideas and actually getting to the part of finding funding and then getting funded. Because as we've heard, a common thread here is it is a labor of love. And it's hard work, it's a lot of work, but it's so incredibly rewarding. I want to focus maybe on the proposal development. I don't know where the audience is in developing research programs for undergraduates, if you've done it before, if you're just getting started. And so for those of you who have done it before, that's great. And I'm looking very much forward to the discussion piece. And for those of you who are just getting started, don't let that labor of love concern you, because A, you shouldn't be doing it alone, and B, the rewards are so great that when you look back at the time where you were developing your idea, building your relationships and your partnerships with either the community or across campus, looking at the proposal development side of things, I would recommend at least 4 months in advance. Everybody does things differently. For me personally, a lot of ideas have to percolate in my mind. I kind of come up with some harebrained idea, talk it over with different people, read the solicitation that you're considering, or search solicitations that meet some of the ideas that you have, that the priorities match up. And I always start off with a very basic idea that I've developed in my mind and talk it over maybe with the program officer. And these don't have to be in these chronological order that I have listed here under these bullets, but one of the most important things is, identifying partners, whether they are community partners or other departments or interdisciplinary across campus. And when I meet with partners or potential partners, again, I have this idea developed, but it's not, I have this idea bouncing around in my head, but it is not fully developed. And that's intentional, because that's something that you should really develop with your partners. And considering who it is you're partnering with, the population that you're trying to serve or that you're working with, and ensuring that they're a part of that idea development and they're a part of either in a co-PI or another PI in a collaborative, which is what we have with Pima Community College, in that type of relationship. And, it's trying to stay away from the times where we would maybe try to find a partner after our idea was already developed, bring them on board, and maybe we give them a subcontract, and it's really not a true partnership. And so once you've met with partners, you've solidified that, you've developed your ideas, you've talked to the program officer, just don't forget to reach out to the other parts of campus, which you will hear later on, Courtney's office, and just really getting your team together, because the team can be a make or break. It's really who you write into the grant, who you bring on board, and make sure that you have all the other pieces that a lot of times I know I forget, those letters of collaboration or bio sketches, budget justification, all of those things can really make or break these proposals that we're putting together. And so those are kind of the things I wanted to focus on for those of you who either have never done this or maybe have done it and not been funded. There's times where I have not been funded. There's times where I've been conditionally funded, where I've had to go back and speak to the reviewers' comments. And, it did kind of hurt my ego a little bit. I didn't always agree with them, but the goal is to get funded and to do right by the population that you're trying to serve. What I believe the value to students and the value to the PI and the leadership team is. Value to the students, what I have seen in these programs, and I've been doing this for many years, is just the ability to change the trajectory for some of these students. They might not have had an opportunity to experience something like this. They might have never thought about doing research. Sometimes it's the stipend that brings them in. Sometimes somebody recommends it to them, or sometimes it's what they need to get into grad school, or in some of my programs might be medical school. But it really is a game changer for them. And you see in a lot of these programs might be 10 weeks long, summer research programs, some might even be academic year programs, but the confidence and self-efficacy that happens in these students is amazing. It really, from a PI perspective, to be able to stand back and again, building your team that coordinates these programs is really important as well, because as a PI, you kind of take that 10,000 foot view and make sure things are running appropriately. And so you get to sit back and watch these students grow over what is really a short period of time. It teaches them obviously the research skills, but in addition to those research skills, most programs have the other added benefits of professional development skills, the soft skills that maybe they're not learning in a classroom, the network and camaraderie that they build, not just with their peers, but with the mentors and the mentors network. And that brings me to kind of this other point of being a mentor in some of these programs is, akin to being the PI, and the value that is brought to the leadership team to in these grants. And so it allows you the opportunity to give back to students, which we've all been undergrads before. We've all been kind of deer in the headlight, not knowing which direction we want to take, and hoping we land a really great mentor who can guide us. And so the value that brings to us as leaders at the university, I think is it's very underestimated. And again, as I mentioned, it's amazing to watch the students' growth in just a short period of time. It helps us build our collegial network across campus, which, Dr. Cantwell mentioned that in the beginning, of how we can come together and work together to be able to further these research opportunities. And so being a PI or being on the leadership team of some of these research undergraduate research programs helps with that, and helps us come together as a network across campus in addition to our community partnerships. And going back to what I said before about the importance of building these community partnerships, it's not a one and done. Even when the grant is over, or if you don't get funded, the importance of maintaining and nurturing those relationships within our community always pay off in ways that go much further than just funding. And so I am looking forward to answering some questions about this. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Allison. We appreciate your time. All right, next slide, please. We're going to, we have a couple videos with student testimonials. I think we'll just do one for now because Allison did such a great job of communicating the value and the impact on students.
Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Stamer and I'm a junior here at the University of Arizona, double majoring in astronomy and physics. And the REU I participated in was during the summer of 2022. I was at the University of New Mexico researching in their physics and astronomy REU. I wanted to get involved in undergraduate research because I wanted to see what options were available to me. There's a lot of subfields of astronomy and physics, and I wanted to kind of test the waters and see what was most interesting to me, and also maybe what wasn't as interesting to me. The undergraduate research experience has been very, very valuable to me. I've been able to meet great people, great colleagues, great professors who have all kind of helped me in my research journey. And in addition, it's given me more of a clear idea of what I want to do in the future, and also some research areas that are up and coming and some areas that I might want to get more involved in the future as well. And I do plan on continuing my research in the future. I have been doing astronomy education research since my freshman year, and I am starting my honors thesis next semester in that. And then as for my exoplanet research, I'm actually presenting it very, very soon in January, but I plan on continuing it if I can in the future, but if not, I will hopefully find something else that will be interesting that I can look at. Thank you all for having me.
I'll turn it over to Courtney Coffey.
Thank you, Kimberly. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you. My name is Courtney Coffey, and I support training and diversity proposals as part of research development services. So both NSF and NIH provide a couple of programs that are specifically designed to fund undergraduate research experiences. The first one of these I'm going to talk about is one that it sounds like Dr. Johnson has been funded for, which is a NSF REU site grant. The next deadline to apply for one of those is coming up on September 6th. And the budgets for these range from about $80,000 to $130,000, and that funding is meant to support hosting 8 to 10 students a year. And these run on 3-year cycles. The rationale, I think, has kind of already been mentioned, so I won't go over that of why this is. I do want to also just mention something that I think Kimberly alluded to at the top of the hour, which is how important it is that we have more people in STEM from different backgrounds, because we just need a variety of perspectives, people with different viewpoints to come up with creative solutions to complex problems. So that's one of the reasons why these sponsors are keen to have more individuals from underrepresented backgrounds get attracted to and stay in STEM careers. Participants in the site grants are typically juniors or seniors. However, if you have a project in mind that could involve first or second year undergraduates, those are highly encouraged. The research can be done in the summer or the academic year, and at least half of the students must be from institutions with limited research opportunities. So from community colleges, for example. Just a couple of other things I want to mention about these site grants. They can also have an international dimension, so that might be of interest to some of you. And as Michael Johnson so nicely illustrated earlier, these can also be set up to be either in whole or in part as virtual experiences, where some of the activities or all of the activities are happening remotely. One other thing, these have to be, the student participants have to be US citizens or permanent US residents. So here are some of the main things that you're going to include in that. proposal. You'll talk, of course, about the student activities you have in mind. You'll also want to have a pretty detailed student recruitment plan and selection process, particularly talking about what is your plan to attract members of underrepresented groups to apply to your program. And on that front, I recommend reaching out if you'd like some guidance and some suggestions on how to do that recruitment effectively, reaching out to Kimberly and her colleagues in Societal Impacts, and they will be a great resource for you. You are also going to want to mention our status as a Hispanic serving institution. That's going to be looked upon favorably. And if you'd like some ideas about how to highlight and leverage our HSI status, please let me know. You can also contact Riley McIsaac in the HSI Initiatives Office, and she could help you with that element. A couple of other things you're going to have a plan for the development of student-faculty interaction, as well as student-student communication. And then, of course, mentorship plans are a key part of these. Mentorship here refers both to training for the students. So, for example, training on responsible and ethical conduct of research, as well as training for the research mentors on, what is effective mentorship? What does that look like? Again, on that topic of developing your mentorship plans, I would encourage you to reach out to Societal Impacts, and they will be able to guide you on that and give you lots of suggestions. Finally, you'll have a project evaluation as part of this. And next slide, please. Okay, so here's a breakdown of the budget. As you would probably expect, the bulk of the budget is set aside for participant support, and these are some of the main categories. It's going to include stipends for the students' time. This is hugely important because, again, these are targeting individuals who are generally underrepresented in STEM, including low-income individuals. So providing some funding so that they don't have to work in that summer or get that academic year job is important. Stipends are budgeted at $600 a student per week. You might also have housing costs, meals might need to be included, or meal stipends. You may have some travel costs, as well as lab use fees and workshop fees. You can have a portion of the budget, a smaller portion of the budget funneled towards things outside of participant support, and those would typically include things like time for the PI, someone to help you with program administration and coordination, and the cost to train the mentors. And next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears here and talk about another funding mechanism that NSF offers. And these are more modest in scope and also more modest in scope in terms of the application. It's only 3 pages to apply for an REU supplement. These support having 1 or 2 undergraduates work on your research project. And you can apply for these at 2 different points. You can apply when you're first applying for whatever grant with NSF at the outset. You can go ahead and, just as a matter of course, when you have that application going in, go ahead and include a supplement request at the same time. So that's one option, and that's actually, what NSF would prefer if more people did it that way. But you can also apply on the flip side. After you actually already have an NSF award, you can at that point contact your program officer, let them know that you want to apply for a supplement, and apply at that point. In either case, you're going to start with the program officer to apply for this, and the application itself could not be more straightforward. It's only 3 pages, and it's going to include the nature of the student's involvement, You'll talk about your own experience and any other prospective mentors you have in mind, their experience on working with undergraduates on research projects, and what your plan for mentoring and how the students will be selected. In some cases, you may already have a student in mind, and that's fine. In that case, you'll go ahead and include the bio sketch for the student as well as part of that application.
Courtney, real quick, so
Yeah.
RU supplements, those are, if somebody applies for it and they get the NSF grant, they're pretty much, it's almost like a guarantee that they're going to get their RU supplement as well, right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for mentioning that, Kimberly. So if you have any interest in, supporting a student or two to get involved with your research, I really encourage you to go for one of those. It's kind of yours to lose. So very straightforward to apply for one of those. Okay, so we're moving on now to just one other thing I want to mention briefly, and these are Dear Colleague letters that NSF seems to be publishing these throughout the year. These are supplements for either one undergraduate or one graduate student, and they are, sometimes have deadlines, sometimes you just have to apply before your current award ends. So these are for people who have active NSF awards. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so we're going to switch gears again here and talk about the NIH side of the funding world. NIH has what they call diversity supplements, and these can fund the recruitment and support of individuals at any level from high school on up to postdocs, so long as they are from a group that is underrepresented in health-related research. I did put information about how NIH defines underrepresented in health-related research on one of the last slides. So the due date for these diversity supplements, it depends on the particular NIH institute or center. But like the REU supplements, well, unlike them, you have to already have the funding, because with the REU supplements, you can apply before you got the funding when you're just applying for any kind of award. The NIH ones, it must be for people who already have an award. And the project must be within the scope of the original project, and you're basically showing how you can bring this candidate in and help them grow their research career by having them participate on your project. So you start again by contacting your program officer as well as the diversity supplement program officers. The budget for these varies from $5,000 to $100,000, depending on the candidate's career level. The time span for these are 2 years, with 1 year remaining in the parent grant. I also just want to mention regarding these diversity supplements, they do encourage you to recruit more if you're going for high school or undergraduate students, for you to recruit more than one and in pairs at least. And Kimberly, I don't know if you want to comment on like why that's a good idea.
Sure. So it's important to be able to have 2 students at least. That's ideal, because then you won't have a student that's just working by themselves in the lab and then feel this sense of isolation, which could lead to a negative experience with your particular lab. So it would be ideal to have at least 2 students who can provide that sense of teamwork and camaraderie and bounce ideas or just questions back and forth.
Right, thank you. Yeah, so not to be too isolated. And I would say that with that same principle, if you're thinking about the NSF REU, they don't necessarily encourage that, but knowing that that is a good practice, why not go ahead and include 2 students for those as well. These are very straightforward and short write-ups that you'll put together to apply for one of these. And I'll mention the candidate eligibility statement. I do have an example of that in the last slide, so that's there for your reference. And let's go ahead and go to the next slide, please. So this is me and my contact information. I'd be very happy to support any of you all in your efforts to secure undergraduate research funding. There's a link here as well for a list of 35 education, training, and diversity grant opportunities. So that's available to you in Box. So if you're interested in getting a sense of, other kinds of larger funding opportunities available, not necessarily just for undergraduate research, but other kinds of training and diversity grants, please check that out. So that concludes my portion of today's talk, and I want to go ahead and turn it over to my colleague, Jen Fields.
Thanks, Courtney. So I'll be brief here as well. I just wanted everyone to be aware of our office, the Office of Societal Impact, which does sit under RII and research as part of the research development arm of RII. And some of the differences, Courtney is really great at providing sort of that overarching general support with narratives and timelines and some of the core issues of your proposal. Our office is good to connect with for some of those more detailed portions. She already mentioned some of the mentoring details or best practices in recruiting, but also evaluation. Dr. Johnson mentioned that he connected with me very early on in this effort. And not only was I able to help find some institutional funds for administration, but I connected him also with Dr. Corey Knox, who is an educational researcher who has really been able to work with him to provide data that is great in proposals. It supports that we've tried this, it works, we have a little data, we have some evaluation. And as you saw in the slides, evaluation is a key part of these plans. I worked recently with the Geosciences Department as well on an RU site that was funded. They work specifically with community and tribal colleges. Courtney mentioned that's a strategy that is helpful to reach those students who are not at research intensive universities. So don't feel like you have to work with one or the other of us. Courtney's there to support you. Our office is here to support you on some of those other elements. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us, and you see our contact information here on the slide. So I'll stop there and I will turn it over to Courtney Liligden.
Hi, everyone. So as Jennifer said, thank you. I'm Courtney Liligden. I am the Assistant Undergraduate Research Coordinator over in the Office of Societal Impacts. And I just want to briefly talk to you about just a general timeline for implementing RUs and then some resources that are going to be available very soon for implementation. And so when you have these summer research programs, you want to start as early as October in terms of launching your REU website and getting the information out there, recruiting students, recruiting mentors. And then throughout kind of that entire time frame, you're working through logistics in terms of paying students, housing students, pairing students with mentors, et cetera, in order to be prepared to host that program over the summer. One major resource that we are currently developing are mentor trainings. And so these are going to be asynchronous trainings that you can offer to any mentors. They could be graduate students, lab staff, PIs, et cetera. And these are to help them learn how to foster an inclusive and welcoming environment for students of all backgrounds, talking about cultural responsiveness, microaggressions, personal biases, et cetera, so that people are aware of all of those things and can make sure that students feel safe and are able to succeed in these programs. And finally, I just want to briefly mention that I am assembling an REU implementation guide. I met with about a dozen staff and faculty across campus who have funded undergraduate research programs, some of whom are in this meeting today. Thank you for your contributions. And this guide is basically going to house all of the information you could possibly want about REUs, important dates and deadlines, information about funding, information about paying students and the different ways that you can do so, information about recruiting students, recruiting mentors, and just how to foster a community within the student population that you're serving. And with that being said, I want to hand this off to my colleague, Kelly Miriam Castro, who's going to talk more about her opportunities for recruiting and advertising to students.
Thank you, Courtney, and thanks everyone for being here. Yes, so I think Michael mentioned earlier that if you don't have a good recruitment plan, then your proposal may not be considered. So I wanted to just let you know of some of the resources that were available on campus and a very, very, very important email address, which is undergradresearch@arizona.edu. That is the main email address that will come into our website, or that will come to our team. So if you have any questions while you're writing the grant process, or while it comes to actually recruiting for students for your program that has been granted and that you have funds for, please send an email to that email address, and we will be happy to speak with you about the best way to try to reach out to students. And I know a lot of you have great programs in your own departments, so we can also supplement that process. We don't mean to compete, we mean to complement, and we mean to expand and access to students perhaps who are outside of the reach that you already have. So I'm just going to go quickly because I do want to have time for questions in the rest of this presentation. Just quickly, some of the resources at your disposal are the ur.arizona.edu webpage. Please visit it and take a look. We list as many programs as we can on there. We have this lovely carousel that rotates through things that are happening right now in full color. We have an events page with deadlines that are coming up. If you want anything on that webpage, send an email to that email address and we will help you advertise. I work in the Office of Student Engagement and Career Development. That is my home seat. And so my whole reason for existence is student outreach and education about research opportunities. And Handshake is our tool for advertising paid positions if you have them, but also for events and other things that you want to promote, classes, other activities. We can also label things with an undergraduate research label. And we teach students to look for that label. And also our own office knows to look for that label. That label will also put things on the front page of the career.arizona.edu website, which is my home website in student engagement and career development. And that will help advertise to students all across campus. So reaching outside of your majors, reaching outside of the students that are in the network that you're already connected to bring in a broader student population. We have a weekly community listserv of people that have already connected with us. If you are interested in being on this listserv, if you're not already receiving our emails, send an email to that email address. I'll be happy to add you. But we do send out, it's mostly undergraduate students, some faculty, some staff, but we send out information about upcoming programs, deadlines, so that students know what to apply for when they're coming up. We also have email campaigns. We can send out targeted emails to specific student populations. So if you are specifically wanting to recruit freshman and sophomore Latina women students or Black male students, or specifically juniors, seniors, federal work study eligible, we can help you reach out to that student population. We do have an Instagram account that we use regularly, multiple times a week. Reach out to us, like us, link to us, follow us, and send us stuff that you would like posted there. And then I also have a team of undergraduate research ambassadors. These are undergraduate researchers that help with student outreach. They can come present to student groups. If we know about your projects and what you're promoting, then we can include that in all of these materials, and the research ambassadors know about it. They meet with students one-on-one to talk about their interests, and they can figure out, oh my goodness, this would be a great opportunity. Have you heard about this program? And so they are an important resource as well that you should know about. Please go to the next slide. Because I sit in student engagement and career development, like I said, you have access to basically Life Lab, which is where students can walk in if they have questions, they want to be involved, they don't know where they're going. So if we know about your program, then the Life Lab guides can guide them to the research services and your program. Another really incredible resource, students have said that they tend to, that what's most helpful to them is hearing from faculty mentors and from advisors. And so we can also help you reach out to advisors. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out to advisors, and also we can send other things out to advisors so that they know about your programs as well. And I just did include a front page image of our new website. It's a relatively new website for career.arizona.edu. And you see the upcoming events on the right-hand side. Any event that we tag with undergraduate research pops up right there. So your event would be front and center on the student engagement webpage. But again, you have to email us to get that added. This is my email address. I just wanted to drive it home. If you want to talk to us about any of that, please email us at undergradresearch@arizona.edu. We'll be happy to help you build that recruitment plan and also help you then initiate it once you have program funding.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for the information. So now we've arrived to our question and answer session. And Ellen, do you mean that, can you clarify your question?
Yeah, sure. So this was kind of focused on primarily national level funding. I know there are lots of kind of pots of money floating around the university for various things. And I was wondering if there's like a collated list somewhere of where we can look within the university for this type of funding.
So, yeah, so there are a lot of different, like you said, funding opportunities across the U of A from different offices. We do have some funding opportunities ourselves, so we put them in on the ur.arizona.edu page under the faculty tab. We have a page that says faculty opportunities. So you could always look there if it's related to undergraduate research. We're happy to add additional opportunities that people contact us about there for internal grants. But I'm wondering with RDS, I know there's a page that shows sometimes the different opportunities that RI offers.
Yeah, there is internal funding opportunities that's listed on our website, but to my knowledge, they are not for undergraduate research.
So there are a number of categories of RII internal seed grants. I don't think, although there's not one currently that's very specifically focused on undergraduate research, we are creating some new categories. So that might be something you see pop up on the horizon in the next round of internal seed grants. But there are a few of them that are for your research projects to collect that pilot data as you're thinking of going for that federal funding opportunity. And there's no reason why you could not incorporate undergraduate researchers into that grant submission and into that plan on those internal RII grants.
And as far as faculty funding is concerned, when we do find out about opportunities, we would definitely put it on the faculty opportunity page on the ur.arizona.edu website. When you look there now, you see the faculty challenge grants that we've been running for the past 2 years through our office. Those are changing potentially for the next year. So I don't want to say, oh, come back and look for those next year. I'm not sure what things are going to look like, but as opportunities are available that we know about, we will put them there.
Are there any funding cycles, Kelly, yet for the rest of the year for those faculty challenge grants?
Yeah, they actually just closed because we did for spring. If we have funding left over, we will do a summer round. It's looking like we may not need to do a summer round this year because we did get quite a few applications for spring. So, but if there is a spring round, we will put it there, or for summer, yeah.
And the university right now is in the midst of, there's an undergraduate research task force that has been assembled that's making recommendations to the university. You heard from Betsy initially, and Liesl as well is very committed to this effort. So funding is one of the subcommittees. So I think there will be some developments that come out of that as well.
So we have another question that says, is there guidance on how to recruit students from McNair, UROC, ASUMS? What kind of funding or proposals do these require? So, so McNair itself and UROC, so McNair itself is a Department of Education funded grant. And so they hire students. So you could always potentially recruit students from McNair, but they typically are funded to do research already. You might be able to partner with them if you wanted to be a mentor, but you'd have to contact McNair. We do have links to the different undergraduate research programs on that are at the U of A on the ur.arizona.edu site. UROC consists of several, I think it's 8 or 9 summer research programs, so they already are funding students. But ASUMS, we are a program that does introduce students to undergraduate research. So if you wanted to partner with ASUMS, we have a pool of 400 to 500 students. So you could contact just asums@arizona.edu and ask about opportunity to partner. We'll have to include some information in the guide that we're developing about how to partner with the different groups.
Jen.
Thank you.
Okay.
And Dr. Johnson could probably also speak to this, but if you are applying for a site, you are describing the research environment that these 8 to 10 participants will come into. So you want to have identified a strong team of researchers and mentors who will take on, each of them will take on a couple of students. You describe them, their experience with mentoring students, what their research lab is about, what some of the skills that students would receive. Michael, if you want to add to that.
Sure. I think some of the proposals that got into the weeds with the scientific projects, they ended up not doing as well. But those that kind of focused on like a broad project from the mentors and the skill set that will be learned, those were the ones that did the best. I think sometimes we conflate, we say we want these, undergraduates to save the world in this particular research project, but that's not necessarily, that's the goal of our R01s, our career awards. These are really to get them acclimated to scientists. So in the future, they can save the world. So I think really concentrating on that and especially, with that core team of, having, if you're going for 8 slots, then have 8 people that's labs that they can go into.
To add to what Dr. Johnson just said, some of the feedback I've received on the REU proposals that I've submitted regarding the faculty mentors and the research projects, at times our faculty, as Dr. Johnson was saying, have these really large projects and we're asking them for a description. We're asking them, it almost feels like we're asking them to do us a favor. Can you please mentor? Can you please? And so I'm hoping in time, that's one of the cultural shifts with all of this effort at the university of really pushing undergraduate research and proper mentoring, et cetera. But when we get these research descriptions of what the projects are, being a panelist on the review panelist, what we see a lot is not having a project that is appropriate for the population that you're trying to serve. And so, one of my grants serves community college students, and I'm putting them in labs at MIT, labs at Harvard. These are high level labs. And so it's really important to explain to NSF, to explain to the reviewers very clearly, as you've already heard, what are the skills that the students will be doing, but what is their role on that project? If it's a larger project, that's great, but what will the student be doing? What will they be learning? And how will they be mentored in a way that sets them up for success, not failure? Because one thing about these grants, especially when we're working with either vulnerable populations or populations that are underrepresented in those fields, is they have as much as they can help, they can hurt. And so it's really our responsibility as PIs and leaders to make sure that those students are set up for success from funding, housing, everything, so that they don't have to bat an eye. And a lot of the population we're working with also, we're asking them to not work for the summer because we're giving them a stipend. And we're asking them to either quit the job that they had during the semester to pay for their education, or not seek a job that they normally would over the summer to help pay for the next semester. And so those are all considerations that as you're writing the grant, you're putting together the things that you've heard here, a good mentoring plan, who is going to be the mentors, how are the students going to be supported, what are the projects, what are plan Bs if there's a personality conflict, if there's a project issue that, it can't be completed, or we've run into so many things that you might not even imagine, from mental health to financial to homelessness and insecurity. I've even had students who have, been in situations where we need to remove them from the home, help them in that regard. So lots of things you wouldn't think about that go into working with various populations, and just this age group is a tough one too. So
thank you so much, Allison, for those really important points. Definitely connecting students with a community while they're on campus, and maybe connecting your opportunity, your program with other programs that are here on campus, so that students have other summer research students to socialize with over the summer. We used to organize a bunch of social events over the summer for students to get to connect. So having staff incorporated into your budget is really, really important to coordinate the programs effectively. So we are out of time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us and for your questions and your interest. I hope all of you who have an NSF grant at least goes after an REU supplement, because you're leaving money on the table. So that's an important thing to think about. please reach out to us if you have any other questions. Again, thank you for joining us.